When we think about serial killers, we imagine people like Ted Bundy or Jack the Ripper, men with traumatic childhoods, psychological disorders, or strange obsessions. We search for the moment they became monsters. But what if the most terrifying violence does not come from people hiding outside society, but from people functioning comfortably inside a system that makes killing feel normal? In 2013, during the Syrian civil war, a man stood beside a pit in Damascus. One by one, blindfolded civilians were brought toward him. He smiled, he joked, then he shot them and pushed their bodies into the hole. His name was Amjad Yusuf, and despite what he is accused of doing, most people around the world have never heard his name. Amjad Yusuf was not a dictator, not a famous military commander. He was a Syrian intelligence officer working under Military Intelligence Branch 227 during the Syrian civil war, a small function inside a much larger system. Before the war, he appeared to be living a normal life. And maybe that is part of what makes the footage difficult to process. Because when we imagine evil, we often want it to look obvious, different from us, easy to recognize. But history repeatedly shows something else. Sometimes systems of violence do not require people to become monsters overnight. Sometimes they only require a world where violence slowly becomes routine. The massacre took place in the Tadamun neighborhood of Damascus in 2013. Years later, leaked videos began circulating online. The footage showed blindfolded civilians being led toward a large pit. The victims believed they were being transferred somewhere else. Instead, they were executed one after another. In the video, Amjad Yusuf speaks casually, relaxed, almost playful. Then he shoots them, again and again and again. Not with visible rage, not in panic, but with the calmness of someone doing something that no longer feels unusual. That may be the most disturbing part of all. The violence feels organized, normalized, and almost administrative. Not like chaos, it's more like a procedure. So why is Amjad Yusuf not as famous as Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer? Part of the answer may be uncomfortable. Serial killers in the West often become cultural obsessions. Books are written about them, movies are made, podcasts analyze every detail of their lives. But when violence happens inside war, especially in places like Syria, the victims often become statistics instead of stories. The world does not react equally to all victims. Some become global obsessions, others disappear almost unnoticed. And maybe another reason is this. Traditional serial killers operate outside the system, but Amjad Yusuf operated inside one. His violence was not hidden from the people around him. It existed inside a political and military structure where brutality had already become normalized. When we hear stories about serial killers, we usually focus on psychology, what happened in their childhood, what made them become this way. But cases like this force a different question. What happens when violence is no longer personal, but systematic? The political theorist Hannah Arendt once used the phrase, the banality of evil, to describe how ordinary people can become part of horrifying systems. Not necessarily because they are insane, but because violence becomes normalized around them. Inside systems like these, killing can slowly become procedure. Routine, just another task. And maybe that's what makes this story harder to process than traditional true crime. Because Amjad Yusuf does not appear as a mysterious man hiding from society. He appears as someone functioning comfortably inside it. And perhaps that is what political violence does best. It slowly teaches people that certain lives no longer matter. For years, Amjad Youssef remained free. The videos existed. The accusations spread internationally. But Syria was still under the Assad regime. Then everything changed. After the collapse of the Syrian government, the new Syrian authorities announced his arrest. More than a decade after the Tadamun massacre, the man seen in the videos is now awaiting prosecution. And for many Syrians, the arrest represents something larger than one individual. The possibility that accountability after years of war and silence might finally begin. We usually imagine serial killers as people separated from society, disturbed, isolated, clearly different from everyone else. But watching Amjad Youssef in those videos feels disturbing for a different reason. He does not look shocked by what he is doing. He looks consumed by hatred. He looks comfortable, as if the violence had already become completely normal to him. And maybe that is what stories like this force us to confront. That under the right system, cruelty can stop feeling cruel. Especially when the victims are people the world has already learned to ignore. Because not all victims are remembered equally. Some become headlines, some become documentaries, some become part of global memory, and others disappear quietly into mass graves, war footage, and statistics. And maybe that is the reason this became the story of a serial killer you will never hear about. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you want to add or discuss something. And don't become a serial killer.